Right. Thank you all for joining today. We will be, of course, diving into talking about Salesforce dashboards, but before we do so, like most of our sessions, pretty informal. Please feel free to either put items in chat. I'll do my best to monitor that. But Kelly, if you see that I miss anything, feel free to speak up on their behalf. And of course, if any individuals feel good unmuting themselves, you're always welcome to do so too. So Salesforce dashboards, oh, I apologize. I am on the wrong slide. Right. So Salesforce dashboards are a great resource for our Marketing Cloud and Salesforce users. And that's because it can present a lot of really rich data to you. Particularly in this case, what we'll be looking at is what emails you have been sending and how they are being received and when they are being received well. So we did invite all of our Marketing Cloud users to this session, but do note that this information could absolutely be valuable more broadly, that folks in leadership position or other individuals on your team probably have a vested interest in these communications going out to these audiences as well. So it might be your first look at it, but as I've started to adopt these, I bring them up in a lot of conversations that I don't want these abstract, oh, I heard this happened with the communication. This can really get you looking at data and get away from some assumptions. As noted in red here and why we're hosting this session at this point in time, it is a bit of follow-up to the business unit and email preference optimization project that we closed out pretty recently. So that saved us some money, happy day, but in that we condensed some of our business units. So these Salesforce dashboards that we'll be looking at today have been available since 2020. We re-ramped them back in 2021 and again now. And that's because we needed to update the filters a bit to accommodate for where individuals are now sharing business units. So we'll dive into what that actually looks like in a little bit. As mentioned before, we'll make that recording available, and then the wiki that I shared out will remain available to you. So today might just be that awareness piece, and maybe in a couple months, my team's been asking me how my communications have been going for the last 6 months. Maybe those Salesforce dashboards would be a good place to start. So as a whole, these dashboards are wonderful at providing visual representations of data. To see so many spreadsheets, and while I might like them, I know a lot of people don't, but especially if you're looking at a lot of data, that visual charts and different components can help everyone at the table digest that information better and therefore have more quality conversations. You can also view that data in real time or very, very close to real time. With our integration, it's updating every 15 minutes. So as you hit send on a Marketing Cloud communication, that data, meaning who was it sent to? What's the open rate? What's the click rate? Who clicked on it? That's all coming back to Salesforce every 15 minutes. So very close to real time. Maybe not true for all, but I have come across a lot of examples where people have been doing manual work. They might naturally, being more familiar with Marketing Cloud, that you'll just go look at tracking. And when you have to go report that back to your leadership, I've seen people just copying and pasting like the open rates into a spreadsheet. And the truth is that spreadsheet already exists in Salesforce that we could make for you to export. And so dashboards really take that to the next level with these visual components. So if you find you're doing manual work around email send data, there's probably a much more efficient way to do that. Of course, this tracking progress. So not only will this be good for the emails that you're sending in the future, it's good for previous sends too. So even if you're an individual, it's like, well, I've only been here for 2 months. Well, if your unit's been leveraging eCom, you would be able to pull data back from 2020. So I'm seeing that historical perspective. Is your open rate going up over time? Is your click rate going up over time? Because ultimately it's not what is a good open rate, what is a click rate. We're just looking for progress. So I do want to be very clear before we dive into Salesforce. And if you're not logged in there already, feel free to start doing so. But some people, I think, get the misinterpretation that, oh, I'll use this dashboard and it'll tell me when should I send my next email and what should that subject line be. And that feels a bit more like AI. It's not quite doing that. But what it is going to provide for you is a lot of data that very custom to the communications that you've been sending and how your audience receives it. So it's really just really powerful insights, but you're going to need to interpret that. And so many times I get questions and I respond, it depends. And that's just the truth. Everyone's audience is a bit different. And so these dashboards can help. Rather than just saying it depends, it depends. Let's look at your particular audience, and doing that through dashboards can help you better understand that audience. So never draw too many hard assumptions from dashboards. Be open to what it's telling you, and don't look at failures as failures. They're lessons in what not to do, which can be equally as valuable. With that, it's also not just going to be a one and done approach. You need to constantly come back to this and make sure you're nurturing that audience, because they are dynamic at the end of the day. All right, so we are going to go ahead and pop into Salesforce, and I've got a screenshot of the home page here. You'll see on that right-hand side what's currently called these business unit dashboards, which I will change that name in a little bit, but as far as how it presents will be very, very similar. So we have two sets of dashboards. The first being how are my emails performing? And then the second set of when my emails are performing. So we have those for each of the different campuses. And so I'm going to go ahead and pop into Salesforce. And if you're not already there, I will share out our login link. So most of us usually pop into Marketing Cloud. So this could be one of your first times getting more into the Salesforce space, but it is single sign-on. So you might need to select your campus, but otherwise should be pretty easy to get into. But once everyone does so, you'll be taken to the Salesforce homepage, and there are some dashboards taking up the primary real estate here, but we do have on the right-hand pane, that second box down, these business unit dashboards. So I am going to go ahead and open up how are my emails performing. And we'll go ahead and look at this dashboard as an example. So before you might have, if you used these when we rolled them out in 2020 or after that, we only had two filters on here, being the business unit as well as the date sent. So as I mentioned earlier, with our optimization project and some consolidation of business units, this field may not get you or will not filter down to the information that makes sense for you anymore. And so what we've gone ahead and done, like that data still exists. We didn't lose it. It's still going back to 2020 if you were using e-com. We just needed to add other filters so that you could hone in on your particular population, which is why we've added this third filter here. So I will also preface this with, there was a bit of analysis to try to figure out based on these different groups. And I know I've labeled it as like from name, public group, or Marketing Cloud folder. I'm hoping based on the folder structure within Marketing Cloud, it's pretty intuitive on what your kind of name is. But if you're not seeing one that's relevant to you, no biggie. We can go ahead and edit it. And I anticipate that there will be some edits. I know this is not perfect. So just natural part of the process. We can always request more here. But as I hover in this example here, while it's reading CUA diversity and inclusion, so that is the group, is going to pull in any emails that have been sent out from, and as you can see when I cover this, the following email addresses. So that's what I mean. There was some analysis. There's a chance it's not perfect. So if you're feeling like something's not right, or I don't think I really use that email, or there's an email that I use a lot that's not captured here, feel free to let your e-com specialist know, and they will escalate that to me to get it remedied really pretty fast. So you are welcome or encouraged to apply these different filters that if you're wanting to look at the diversity and inclusions group emails, maybe you don't want to go back as far as their communications go, that you're more interested in the last 90 days. You can apply multiple filters, but do be aware if you apply multiple filters, I get this sometimes, like it's broken. It's working for me, so it's not broken, but there's a chance you would apply multiple filters that don't make sense. I'm assuming. So if you're ever seeing like no data or zero, just make sure you look at your filters and see if that's something that makes sense. In this case, I would want this business unit to be set to all. So it's really only looking at these two filters. Just out of curiosity, if I could get a thumbs up in the reactions, who has seen these dashboards before? And no shame at all. I'm just curious. Exactly, Chair. Appreciate that. Sounds good and aligns well with some of my other sessions. And so I guess that's taking its sweet time as we present these information. I'm not going to do a deep dive into all of these different components because I could talk about all of them all day. But what I will say is that we have within our Salesforce dashboard, while I'm posting all of our fall sessions here, I have done a deep dive on these before where we really looked at every single component. So if you want to go through that, you're welcome to. I think it's about 25 minutes. So we did keep this session a bit more high level. But some of the items that I want to call out that I've heard in these other sessions people are using a lot is tracking what they're doing over time. That when you're talking with leadership, there can often be, or I mean, anybody on your team that you don't realize how much work you're doing. And it's a lot. So collecting this information, seeing how much work you're doing, but not as well as how much stuff your audience might be receiving. It can be informative. Thank you, Laura, for your comment on dental medicine. I will note that as well. Appreciate the follow-up email, but yeah, if anybody else has any others, we will get those fixed. Sounds good, Zach. We'll do yours too. So when we're looking at this, how is my email performing? It's looking a lot more at the items that like you would be able to change and how you're delivering your message. So it could be like, what is the subject line? Which is why we highlight your subject lines. So, and try to bring to the top which ones have the best open rate or the best click-through rate. Are you able to see trends in how you're writing these subject lines compared to ones that fell a little bit shorter? Similarly, from name, that's one of the first things people see. So is that determining how people are engaging in your email? And if it is, that's something that you have the ability to change. I do also want to call out, this was a tip from our e-com specialist at UCCS, Kayla Boyer. She uses these total opens versus unique opens and total clicks versus unique clicks a lot because, well, one, opens can often be deceptive and they could be false. But if people are doing it again and again and again, that's a really good indicator that they really did open it numerous times. And so can be better indicator of interest. And then looking at the clicks as well, that she'll use that to repurpose content that was obviously of really great interest. So just using that data and kind of sending out the exact same message, just in a different format or to a different population. I'm sorry we're having so many folks with issues on it. I'm gonna, where's department? Oh,
Now,
yeah.
under the business unit filter, does it have to be on a filter or can it say all?
So if it depends, if you, and with this whole migration, if individuals used to have a business unit and they still live in that same business unit and nobody moved into theirs, they can keep using business units. I believe for most individuals, we instead should be set to all. You like disregard business unit. If you're in a shared business unit now, have it set to all and instead only use this one to go down to your particular unit. Spot on. All right, Zach. So yeah, yours is a good example. Yeah, if you're trying to leverage this filter, if this is one of these should be set to all. You should not be using both, one or the other. And again, prefacing that with there absolutely are some changes that could need to occur in here. And so I'm thinking, I'm trying to remember what we did with police department, but I believe it's listed here, but it's not here. So we might need to add a group for it. Awesome. So I admittedly, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of a, or if I go back to the home page, we have the second set of dashboards on when are my emails performing. And I apologize, this morning did not pan out how I expected. So I did not have time to add the same filter to these dashboards, but the intention is that the two dashboards, or at least the filters, would reflect each other the same. So I will go ahead and get it updated to what I have it as on this other one right after this session. And then of course, any future changes that Laura might send me or anybody I will always get updated in both spaces. But I want to call out this dashboard as well. And as we've labeled it as when are my emails performing? Because that's exactly what it looks at. Like it's the only data that this is going to tell you that you're going to be able to act on is when you're hitting send or when you're scheduling your communication to go. So you can see a bit different from the data this is showing you, the elements that would drive elements that you have the capacity to change, which would be your from name, your subject line, and your pre-header, things like that. But looking at your time of day when items should go out, we have it broken down in a lot of different ways. So whether it's by time of day, so from morning to noon, or in the after, before noon or afternoon, I'll have it broken down there. But we also, as we scroll down, can look at different days. So in our Denver session, this is actually a dashboard that Monica Cutler, she works in the alumni and advancement shop there. She leverages this one more than the how are my emails performing, the when. And so if you do have a moment, she articulated it far better than I am right now. But if you do have a moment in that Denver and Systems session, I even called out in that YouTube video her success story, which I think only took her about 2 minutes. But she's gotten her team to go to the space where it's not, this needs to go out today. She's like, give me the week. If it's not urgent, that it needs to go out in these 3 or 4 days. And that allows her to look at the data and send when she wants, when the data shows that she should. And I believe one of her, she's found that this alumni for some reason respond really well on Friday evenings, which she never did. She assumed no, alumni are not going to open emails on Friday evening, but they do, so she sends them. I am going to go ahead and pause there, and Jason and or Kelly, not to put you on the spot too much, but I'm curious if these have provided insights for you all, or how you have been using them at your campus or foresee doing so.
Yeah, I think they are super helpful. Again, going back to your earlier observation about just being very data driven, it's one thing that we kind of have an instinct. Emails may perform better at this time of day or this on this particular day, but actually having that hard data and then being able to kind of experiment a little bit and kind of report back to our team that we know as a campus level for our internal audience, like Monday, Tuesday morning emails tend to perform the best. And so that's helpful feedback that we can kind of give to some of our stakeholders to kind of enhance the success of their emails.
Absolutely. And the more you get into these, as Monica had said, when we made some of these changes, they broke temporarily. And she was the first to reach out. What happened? I don't know when to send this. You remember that time when you used to just hit send? Oh, that was only 6 months ago. So how quickly we can become reliant on this information. I am taking a few notes. Thank you all for putting those comments within chat. It looks like we have some updating to do, which, like I said, very happy to do. I will send my notes to Kelly, but if you all, Kelly, if you don't mind kind of batching those, and we can get those immediate updates done. And then otherwise, as they continue to come up, you're welcome to send those via the help ticket as well. One thing that came up in another group of mine, and I apologize, I don't know your all's communications well enough to say if this is a good example or not, but I will say, just because there's other opportunities to slice and dice this information that initially we're just trying to get you your communications, but if you're looking at this data and there's a moment where these like really big increases, and then it's like, oh, well, that's not really my communication. And so if you're looking more broadly, there could be a use case for it. You want to see all the communications I'm hitting send on, great. But if you're trying to hone in on a particular audience and how they're responding, this might even be too broad. It could be skewing your charts here. And so there are some groups who they're like, yeah, it's still all regulatory compliance, but we really have two different sets of communications, and we really use two different sets of from email addresses to address those two different batches. And there would be value in looking at those in a different filter view. So those are all very viable use cases. And as I said before, like this has been so powerful for me, getting people to look at data. So I hope you have the same experience. So if there's anything that we can do on the filter side, I'd even say on the date sent, maybe there's some time frame that I just failed to think about here that would be really relevant for you all. So I'm always looking for feedback, and to that degree, Anschutz has the ability to set the filters on this however you all wish, whatever works best for your campus. So going back to our wiki, I do want to call out, and as we saw in there, as you change these drop downs, they will automatically refresh. But if you're going back to the same one all the time, you might need to refresh here. It does say as of this date, but there's been times, oh, the data is way wrong. It's like, hasn't been run in 200 days. Oh, that's fine. You might get that you can't refresh multiple times in a minute. Be patient with it. The amount of data that it's looking at in Salesforce right here that's being presented and rendered in a very pretty way, it's a lot. And I'm honestly just impressed how quick it does happen. But if it takes a couple minutes, you're probably best not clicking around 5 more times. Give it a second. There is an opportunity to subscribe to dashboards as well. So you can set your own frequency. I do have to mention a limitation here. I think a lot of people, myself included, assume that whatever filter you're setting here will be applied when you subscribe to it, and therefore when it shows up in your inbox, you will be seeing the charts for only your emails. It does not work that way. On the subscription, you're gonna get the entire dashboard as it is with all. So that probably is not valuable. So I will say there is a known gap, if you will, as far as, oh, I'd love to get this just sent off to my leadership so they know what I'm doing. It's not really a good answer for that, but I honestly like to have conversations around it and have real actions that we can talk about to move forward and be strategic in the next one. Alrighty, all, I will get this recording posted soon. We'll get the or a message sent out with that recording as well for anyone who couldn't attend. And we'll also get things updated. So Kelly will let you know once we get those. Thank you all for attending. I am able to stay on the line if anyone does have questions. But otherwise, have a great day.